Every winter I get tons of questions relating to the catalyst monitor being incomplete as it gets harder to set. So in this video today, I'm going to give you my tips for the 5 top questions I get asked all the time. So whether you're using a generic OBD2 reader like this or you're using a scan tool, I'm going to help you figure out what to do and how to save yourself a whole bunch of time and money. Stay tuned. Hey everybody, welcome back to Random Fix. So over the years I have driven a lot of vehicles as I worked in the car business for 18 years and I had to do this all the time. And I lived in California, so you can imagine how much time I spent on this. And there are people that have driven thousands of miles and they never get their catalyst monitor ready. And it's normally for a couple of simple reasons. So I get these questions all the time around winter time, and I'm going to go into the top 5 questions, and then I'm going to also give you my answers and give you some basic resources that you can utilize so you can get yourself to pass the emissions test. And I'll be showing this on an OBD2 reader and a scan tool, and it's pretty easy. And this happens a lot more than you think. So for example, I get questions from people that buy this exact vehicle all the time, and they buy these sprinters out of the state because they're not available in every city and state. And once they take it back home, they soon figure out, just like this one, that the inspection monitors are not ready. I bought this vehicle and I was making a video for this yesterday, and I realized that the monitors were not ready. I was like, okay, that's weird, because the car's got 400 miles, less than 400 miles, 393 miles. So I think this is a good chance to get a video out to you guys, as I haven't made any smog videos for a long time, but I do have over 60 smog videos. So if you're dealing with an oxygen sensor, an EGR, or a catalyst, I'm going to help you guys out. And I have specific drive cycle videos for each make. So Mercedes, Toyota, Ford, whatever it is, I have you guys covered. So if you like this kind of content, make sure you give the video a thumbs up, and also consider subscribing to the channel as well, as it lets YouTube know that I'm bringing you guys valuable content. If you learned something new during this video, please comment down below on what it is, as I'm always looking to go and expand my knowledge and give you guys the best feedback and helping you guys through this really confusing process. But I'm going to go and make sure that you guys understand this very well. So during the course of this video, if I do mention that something is okay, basically it means that it's green. If I say it's ready, it means it's green. If I say it's incomplete, not ready, and not set, that basically means that particular monitor is not ready. And we'll be referring to the check engine light a few times, and you might even hear me say it's a CEL light. That's all the same thing as a check engine light. Some vehicles don't have a check engine light, they have a service engine soon light. It's the same thing. I'm going to help you guys get through this. And depending on which state you live in, sometimes you don't need every one of these monitors to get ready. So I'll have a link down below to a video on how to look up your state specific requirements, and that way you can get yourself your tags and hit the road for fun times instead of wasting money on drive cycles, as this process can become very expensive when you're paying for very expensive gas or diesel. Let's go ahead and jump into question number 1. Let me get inside the vehicle so I can give you guys a better view of this. Question number 1 pertains to the check engine light. So I get this question asked a lot. Should I continue my drive cycle if the check engine light turns on? So if you have previously deleted a check engine light for any issue, and that same issue comes back on during your drive cycle, you need to stop the drive cycle and figure out what's going on. So you need to actually fix this issue, because now you're just going to go waste money on gas. As a vehicle, it's pretty smart, and it's detected the issue before you set the monitors to pass smog. So get yourself your OBD2 reader, look up the code. Again, if it's the same code, you need to fix it. Now, if it took a long time for the check engine light to turn on, you may get lucky and there's still hope for you. And we'll talk about that later in the video. Just know, if you have a check engine light, the vehicle is able to actually delete a check engine light itself if it feels that that issue has been resolved. So this is called self-clearing. From my own experience, when I did have a vehicle that had an issue, I never had a vehicle self-clear because the issue existed. So don't waste your time and go and fix the issue, then come back to it. Now, if your check engine light is turning on in less than 10 minutes, we're going to talk about this later in the video, so stay tuned. Question number 2. Should I continue my drive cycle if I have a pending code? If you have previously had that pending code come up and you cleared it, now the vehicle has detected it again, you need to stop the drive cycle and start over. If it's getting triggered right away, then there's obviously something that you need to go pay attention to, or you need some sort of solution such as an additive, a cleaning, which I'll get into later in the video. But you really don't want to keep wasting money and time on a drive cycle where the vehicle already knows that that issue is there and it's just going to go and verify it one more time before it triggers the check engine light. Question number 3. What do I do if the catalyst monitor goes from complete to incomplete? So this is a question I get a lot in the wintertime. So imagine you're doing a drive cycle. You got most of the drive cycle monitors ready, and maybe the oxygen sensor was already in the EGR. However, the catalyst was ready. The next morning you started it up, and by the time you got to work, the catalyst monitor was incomplete again. So here's what's happening. A lot of times in the winter, people do not warm up their vehicles anymore. When I was younger, and I hate saying this because it makes me feel old, we always warmed up our vehicle. And there's no substitute for a proper warm-up when you're dealing with the catalyst monitor. So it's better than any additive, better than anything I've seen, as long as the catalyst is not destroyed. And if you take the time to warm it up, the vehicle is going to get ready a lot faster. And the amount of time really depends on where you live. So over here we've had 20-degree weather for the last 2 or 3 days in Texas. So I would let this vehicle warm up for 25 minutes. And if it still wasn't ready the next day, I would let it warm up another 25 minutes because it was right on the borderline of getting ready. And I just go and drive off. It's then going to go and trigger the check engine light. So if you have a lot of miles on the vehicle, maybe it's really old, you know that that problem is real. And being in a rush when you are dealing with the drive cycle, just know that you are basically costing yourself time by not letting the vehicle warm up. And there's really no downside to letting the vehicle warm up other than maybe spending 25 cents extra on gas. So that's my biggest tip in this video, is let the vehicle warm up. Now, if your car is really old and the catalyst basically needs to get ready nice and hot in order to go and self-test, we want to go and increase the amount of heat that is put into the catalyst system or the exhaust system. And the way we can do that is by increasing the load. So when your vehicle is driving on a straight road, it's not putting out too much fuel into the system, and there's not a lot of heat in the exhaust system. However, if we drive on a mountain or a hill, and I know these are kind of hard to find, especially here in Texas, we don't have any hills or mountains around the Dallas area, but you need to find yourself some sort of incline and basically drive the vehicle hard to get that catalyst ready after a proper warm-up cycle. And if you do the proper warm-up cycle, you drive on a hill, your check engine light hasn't triggered on, and your cat is marginal, so a little bit extra can help it pass. But if the performance decreases a little bit, it will trigger the check engine light. What I would do is consider a fuel additive. And a fuel additive could be as simple as a couple of different solutions. One of them could be pure gas. So if you live in an area where you could get 100% gasoline, do it. It might make the difference. I have motorcycles at my house. I only run 100% gasoline. It does not destroy the components in the carburetor. So I don't let ethanol gas touch my power sports. And if you're dealing with a marginal cat, that can make a huge difference. You may also want to take a look at some chemicals, and I'll leave you guys reviews to those down below. And some of these chemicals can help, and there's other ones that are not great. So don't waste your money. Check the videos if that is something that you need to consider. And honestly, whether it's the pure gas or the chemicals, nothing is going to beat a proper warm-up cycle. Now, if you're lucky enough to have a vehicle that has a marginal cat, so it's neither bad nor is it good, it's right on the borderline, you just need to increase the efficiency up a little bit to make it past smog. And the way you want to do this is by working really fast. So first, you need to figure out what your state's requirements are. Once that's figured out and you know your target, then you need to play the game of whack the mole. And the mole here is the particular required monitor that needs to be set. So if I lived in Texas, which I do, but I don't have smog here, so I'm so lucky, or else I would be really pissed right now with this Mercedes here, because I would have to spend a lot of money on diesel, and it's not even ready to drive. I'm turning this into a camper van, and it's going to be completely dismantled. But nonetheless, I would not want to go and spend all this money on gas and just drive around effortlessly for no reason. And so I want to know what my target is, and once the target is established, then I want to go and focus on each monitor. So check the links down below for your vehicle specific drive cycle, and then complete it and get it done really fast. So avoid really the small little trips unless you're trying to set a monitor that requires small little trips. If you need to set the catalyst, these are not going to require very small little trips. This is going to be long, hard, steady driving. So I would focus on getting it completed ASAP, and as soon as it's ready, I would go drive it down to the smog station. Now, let's just say you get it ready and it's nighttime and they're closed. What I would do the following morning is let the vehicle warm up. Do not just rush right over there, as if you do, especially in the wintertime, you may go and get that monitor to go from complete to incomplete, and it happens all the time. You'll literally pull up to the smog station and your check engine light get turned on. Do not let this happen to you. So let it warm up. If you're super paranoid, screw 25 minutes. Let it warm up for 30 minutes. Do not run the AC or anything else. Just let the vehicle warm up. Do not be cheap about the kind of gas you're using. So as I mentioned earlier in the video, you want to try to go and get yourself ethanol-free gasoline. It costs an extra, I don't know, maybe $1. But it's 91 octane, and it's really good for the vehicle. A lot of these vehicles were never meant to go and run E10 or E15, and we're going to see this number just increase. And the ethanol makes it harder for the catalyst to get ready because it doesn't have as much energy. Anyway, this is a very complicated matter. Just know that I have a Dodge Caravan that takes E85 ethanol. I will never run ethanol in that vehicle unless it was really, really cheap, because ethanol really destroys a lot of components, and it makes it hard for smog inspection monitors to get ready because they have a certain parameter they have to meet. If they don't meet the parameter, check engine light gets triggered. Then you're spending a lot of money on a catalyst. And just know there's no substitute for a brand new catalyst. So if you guys are in the market for a catalyst, I have ways of getting really cheap, inexpensive catalysts. The last one that I bought, and I'll show you guys this, was I think $32. That's what I paid for it. So depending on your vehicle, you may get lucky. On this Mercedes over here, there's no cheap catalyst. I think the cheapest one I can find is $700. But that's a lot better than paying $3,000. If you're on a budget, I have you covered. Check the links down below. Is this helping you guys? Let me know. I'm putting a lot into these videos, so I hope you guys are getting a lot out. Question number 5. What do I do if my check engine light is getting triggered right away? So imagine you're completing a drive cycle and all of a sudden you start it and 10 minutes later the check engine light is on. And this is the same code that you cleared the night before your drive cycle. So whenever you're completing a drive cycle, the night before you want to clear everything. And then in the morning, you want to start the vehicle and let it warm up. Well, if this is happening to you and it's related to the cat, you have a severe issue with your cat. So your cat could be either destroyed, so the honeycomb is basically not there anymore. It's called a substrate. And I'll show you guys a video of this so you guys can actually see what I'm talking about. Or it could be covered in oil. It could be basically destroyed from excessive coolant or coolant making it into the exhaust system. So if you've ever been near a car and it smells like rotten eggs, that car had basically coolant poisoning. In this case right here, you have to go and basically deep clean. So there's a way of actually cleaning the catalyst without removing it. I have a video because on front wheel drive vehicles, it's really hard to get the catalyst out. The bolts, everything is very in a tight space. However, I have figured out a way of cleaning it, and I'll share that with you guys. maybe it takes about 20 minutes and it costs you $11 for the chemical to actually flush out your catalyst. And if you don't have yourself a fancy scan tool, and this is not a fancy scan tool, this is a $159 scan tool that comes with lifetime updates. But if you don't have any of these tools, and maybe you're the original owner of the vehicle and you realize that you've never changed any of the parts on the exhaust system. So for example, if this is the catalytic converter, the sunglass holder, here's the engine, this is the one after the cat. So there's the pre-cat and there's the post-cat. So the post-cat oxygen sensor is actually what determines if the catalytic converter is working correctly. So if you have the original O2 sensor and the vehicle is 20 years old and it's got 200,000 miles on it, you may want to replace that O2 sensor past the cat and only replace the oxygen sensors with OEM parts. Check the connectors, make sure that the wire is not frayed from heat or there's debris on it, but only OEM parts. I know they're a little bit more expensive, but trust me, it's better than spending $500 on gas. Additionally, since this oxygen sensor past the catalytic converter is in charge of figuring out what the catalytic converter is doing, it can get some bad data. So if there was a hole, an exhaust leak somewhere along the line, it cannot figure out if this is doing a good job because there's new air being introduced into the system or out of the system. So when you first start your vehicle and you listen to the car and you hear some sort of puttering or a noise that basically diminishes as the vehicle warms up and the metal expands, it lets you know that you have some sort of exhaust leak. It could be with the manifold, which is going to be before the catalyst towards the front by the engine. It could be in the actual catalytic converter. It could have a hole. It could be in a flex pipe. And the flex pipes on the exhaust systems go bad all the time. You just have to use your ears and listen to the car. Again, if the oxygen sensor is really old, there's really no downside of replacing it with the OEM part. You could figure out if it's working correctly if you had a nice scan tool with the right probes, but this is going to be complicated for most people. And honestly, if you take it down to a shop for the diagnostic time, they're going to charge you about $150 plus. Or you can get a new oxygen sensor for $120, that's OEM. I would just put the oxygen sensor in and just call it a day. However, changing the oxygen sensor is not going to help if your catalyst is broken and it's covered in oil. So you may want to do the cleaning. You may want to replace the oxygen sensor. You may want to go and also put in that pure gas and that additive. All that together is going to cost you less than $200. As long as you don't have an exhaust leak and your catalytic converter is not destroyed within. And you can tell because you can go and tap on it, and if it rattles, it's probably broken. If you notice from your exhaust tip that there's little pieces coming out, or the exhaust pipe is heavily covered in oil and it's really thick on the inside, you can figure out what's going on with the car. And I'll leave you guys a video to this so you can actually see it. Okay, so I'm done with the video, but I did want to give you guys some practical advice just about the catalyst monitor and about vehicle maintenance. And I'm doing this in the most humble way that I know of. So I really do apologize in advance if any of this comes off negative. I'm not trying to be negative. I'm just trying to point out that when it comes down to vehicle ownership, we need to be a little bit accountable. And there's a reason that the catalyst has gone bad. And maybe you just inherited the vehicle and it's not your fault. I completely understand that. However, if you're the original owner and you have not been taking care of this vehicle and you're trying to figure it out now, we're going to go ahead and talk about this a little tiny bit. And again, I'm saying this out of love. And I hope you guys really do hear the sincerity in my voice by apologizing ahead of time. But I've been dealing with car repairs since I was maybe 13 years old when I first started working on vehicles. And every time a vehicle broke, whether I broke it myself, I broke the timing belt on my Honda Civic Si. And honestly, I didn't replace the timing belt and I revved it really high and the belt broke. And I took responsibility for it. I bought it from somebody. I didn't blame them for it. The weird thing is that it happened right at 60,000 miles. So trust me, I've been there. So let's go ahead and get in the vehicle so we can actually discuss this a little bit and give you guys some ways of figuring out the cause of your catalyst going bad and some signs that you should have seen along the way. And let's go get in the car because it's freezing out here, guys. So I normally don't include this into my video. So if this section of the video sucks, please let me know down below and I'll make sure that next time I don't do it. But I think in the current times, we really do need to look at ourselves and say, well, hey, I know why this happened. Let's jump into it. And the most important takeaway from this video, I hope you guys understand, is I have never replaced a catalytic converter unless it was stolen from the vehicle. And I've always passed the smog test on thousands of vehicles. So if I can do it, you can do it. You just need to figure out what the problem is and then go source in on the solution. And there's a really good chance I have a video for you guys. You just need to check the links down below. I get so many questions from people, but I already provided them the answer. You just owe it to yourself. Check the links. The answer is there. Be proactive with your vehicle's maintenance. If you're driving and the check engine light is flashing at you, that means your vehicle is misfiring. So you need to pull over and get it addressed ASAP. If you don't, this video is not going to be very helpful to you because the catalytic converter was destroyed just because of negligence. And don't spend thousands of dollars that you earned by overtime on something that is so simple to avoid. You could just do the maintenance on your vehicle on time. It's not very hard. And guys, I'm very humble and I don't want you guys to think that I am in no way trying to pressure you guys. But vehicle maintenance is pretty easy, especially with YouTube. You have all the help there. It's basically a guide. So when I did the videos for the Dodge spark plugs, I recorded for you guys. On the Prius, I did it. On the Mercedes, the oil changes and everything else that comes up, I did it. And the cool thing is you got hundreds, if not thousands of people like me helping you guys. And once you start taking care of your own vehicle, you're going to be really proud of yourself and you're going to understand that these scan tools are not free. However, they can pay off on the very first time you use it. So stop throwing your money away at the dealership and just start tinkering on your own vehicle and do the little stuff. I'm not telling you guys to replace the engine. Don't do that. I won't do that either. But if I take care of my engine, I never have to replace it. Take care of your catalytic converter. It will not go bad on you as long as you service the vehicle on time. So if you don't change the oil on time, you will damage the catalytic converter. If your vehicle has low coolant, it'll eventually go and crack a head gasket. The head gasket, once it has enough coolant in there, will leak into the exhaust system and then you're going to go and damage it. Or if your check engine light is flashing on you, as I said earlier, it's letting you know that there's too much gas going into the exhaust system and the vehicle is misfiring. The signs are all there. You just have to do something about it. Do not drive around with that car for 10,000 miles with that check engine light flashing, and then wondering, is my catalytic converter really bad? And why isn't it passing smog? I know why the catalytic converter is bad, because I drove around 10,000 miles when the car was telling me, hey, there's something wrong. Please just check the dash. It'll tell you what's going on. It's there for a reason. You got this. Alright guys, well, I hope the video helped you guys out. If there's something that I didn't address in this video, please let me know what it is and I can go and address it in a future video and I will do my best to get back to you. Just understand that this smog process is just going to become more complicated. The newer the vehicle, the more complicated it gets. And every year they're going and basically narrowing the criteria for fail and pass. So if you have an older car, I would definitely recommend getting yourself that $30 OBD2 reader, as it's going to pay off. If you don't have the money to go and buy that right now, you can go down to AutoZone and have them check. I have nothing against the guys that work at the parts stores. Some of the people, however, don't drive and they don't have a lot of experience. And I would not recommend buying an oxygen sensor from some of these big box retailers unless you can verify that it's the OEM part. So if you wanted to verify that and you didn't have access to a lot of information, go to rockauto.com and a lot of times it'll tell you the OE. So basically that particular brand is the one that manufactures that particular oxygen sensor. Again, do not buy it from the big box stores, as there are certain components on the newer vehicles that you cannot buy aftermarket. And I can go into another video about that, but we want to focus on the CAT. You'll find all the links in the video description box down below. I'll leave you guys some end cards that have related videos. And don't forget to give the video a thumbs up. And I really do appreciate you guys. And as always, make it a fantastic day. And see you again.